RF 15-35 f2.8 is a professional level wide-angle zoom for Canon full-frame mirrorless cameras. Build quality is great. Typical Canon plastic outside with wide zoom and focus rings. Lens mount is from metal and the lens is fully weather sealed. Lens extends a bit when zoomed in or out, but the front element does not rotate. It accepts 82mm filters, which are typical for Canon 2.8 zoom lenses. Wide zoom ring glides smoothly. Manual focus ring uses focus-by-wire system, and above you can notice assignable control ring. At the left side there are focus mode and image stabilization switches. Lens hood is delivered with the lens and is quite small compared with the ones that were delivered with 17-40 and 16-35 EF mount lenses. On my kitchen scale it weighs around 910 grams. I think this is acceptable considering a combination of wide angle, large aperture and built-in stabilization system. Optical stabilization can be used simultaneously with IBIS on R5 and R6 and achieve greater effect than either would be able to do alone. I made this review on the R5 and was able to go down to roughly 1 second handheld and get perfectly sharp results. Sharpness is impressive at all focal lengths and all apertures. Center is perfectly sharp already f2.8, and honestly I don't see any improvement top down. Corners are slightly less sharp than center, but quite good even wide open. Still there is improvement top down, and I would say corners look best at around 5.6 and beyond. Focus shift is usually not a problem on wide-angle lenses, and 15-35 is no exception. There is not the slightest trace of it. Focus breathing is very low. I wasn't expecting this, as most Canon lenses have problems with breathing. This will be great lens for video recording. On top of that, it behaves as a parfocal lens. When zoomed in or out, focus plane stays at the same distance. Excellent. Lateral chromatic aberrations are not present. Longitudinal aberrations are invisible as well. Canon did a magnificent job at correcting optics in this lens. Geometric distortions are present but not strong. At 15mm there is barrel distortion, which turns into slight pincushion the more we go towards 35mm. Coma is visible but only in the far corners. Not ideal, but not that bad in absolute terms. Vignetting is quite visible at f2.8 on all focal lengths. f4 brings visible improvement, but only at 5.6 is where vignetting is not obvious anymore. This is probably the worst aspect of this lens. In my opinion, it is not a deal breaker, as modern sensors allow easy shadow recovery, but at this price point I kind of expected a bit better results. Flare control is also not ideal. With a bright light source in the frame, various ghosts will appear. Bokeh is generally nice and pleasant, but be careful, as with branches in the background like I have on these samples, some pretty harsh rendering can occur. With 0.28 meters close focus and 0.21 times magnification, this lens is within range what is expected from an ultra-wide angle zoom lens. 9-bladed aperture will produce 18-pointed sunstar. They are not that big, but are usually very nice, thin and well defined. This is important, as I think many users will want to use this lens for nighttime cityscapes. Overall, I see two downsides of this lens, and that are significant vignetting and the tendency to show flare with strong light sources in the frame. Vignetting is quite visible in many real-life shots, but is easily corrected with modern sensors though. Everything else is quite impressive. 15-35 is very sharp even wide open and does not show even the slightest trace of chromatic aberrations. If you want great wide-angle performance on RF mount, this is the lens to get. I am also quite impressed by dual optical stabilization, which allows shooting handheld at around 1 second. There is also a matter of price, which at this point is more than any previous ultra-wide Canon zoom. Optically, I don't think the new RF lens is that much better compared with EF mount 16-35 2.8 Mark III or the 16-35 f4 IS, so if you already own one of these, you might want to stick with them. Still, some users will want to avoid mount adapter of any kind and use native lenses only. Keep in mind there will be a native RF mount f4 wide angle, probably sometime during 2021. So if you don't need a large 2.8 aperture, wait a bit more, because that one will probably sell close to half the price of this one. That's all for this review. If you have a question, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. For those of you in Croatia, you can find me in real life in Anigota store where I work, and those of you from other countries, please use Amazon affiliate links as I get a small commission from every purchase. Thanks for watching.